Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule.
Cremona, the city of violin making, part 1 of 2. Continue watching to find out more.
Go ahead and make war. Despicable people wouldn't know what else to do except to kill others.
Gracious viewers, when you hear the locals say Benvenuta on the island of Corsica, they are saying welcome in Corsican. I'm Alize. The spiritual Corsican people know that your beautiful deeds done for others' sake will forever remain in all hearts. Heavens love you. Welcome to our show, Cremona, the city of violin making, part 1 of 2. The violin is one of the most versatile musical instruments in the world. It can be played by anyone, regardless of background and ethnicity, to express different musical genres and cultural traditions. This timeless string instrument has undergone many transformations in becoming the modern style of the violin that we know today. It's said the earliest form of the violin can be found in the pear-shaped lira that appeared in the Byzantine Empire, also known as the Eastern Roman Empire, in the 9th century. In the 11th and 12th centuries, the Arabic two-string rebab was introduced to Western Europe and influenced changes to the lira and other both European instruments. In the following 2 centuries, Spanish musicians became acquainted with a 3-string instrument called the rebec. With its body made from wood, the rebec was played from the shoulder with a rosin bow. Around the same time, French artists started to play viol, a 5-string instrument that had a larger body and was similar in size to the modern violin. In the 16th century, violin making experienced significant development in Italy, with continuous improvement in quality through the 18th and 19th centuries. The city of Brescia, at the foot of the Alps, was the first city to be known as the center of violin playing and making. Gradually, the craft came to the nearby city of Cremona, where the art of making superb quality violins was developed in family-owned workshops. The Amati, the Guarnieri, and the Stradivari in the city of Cremona are still among the prominent families who have long-standing expertise in the manufacture of high-quality violins. Many of their products are kept in prized public and private collections. The traditional violin craftsmanship in Cremona was declared an intangible cultural heritage by UNESCO in 2012. Located on the bank of the river Po in the middle of the Po Valley region of Lombardy, northern Italy, the city of Cremona, 1 hour's drive from Milan, with 72,000 inhabitants, is famous for many marvelous historical sites and impressive architecture. The Piazza del Comune in the heart of the city remains the center of Cremona's musical activity since the late Middle Ages. One of the main structures standing on the square is the Cremona Cathedral of Romanesque style that was consecrated in 1196. With an elaborate facade and ancient interior frescoes, the cathedral is one of the most important art monuments in Europe. Side by side with the cathedral is the third highest brickwork bell tower in the world, the Torraso. Standing about 111 meters tall, the tower was built between the 13th and 14th centuries and has a total of 502 steps reaching the top. The astronomical clock on the fourth story is the largest of its kind in the world. Since 2018, the tower has become a place for studying astronomy, time measurement, and clocks. Other historical sites in the area include the 12th century baptistry featuring an octagonal floor plan, the 200-year-old opera house, and the Teatro Bonchielli, which has one of the largest stages in Italy and remains a magnet for international performances. Numerous historical buildings in the town offer an array of fascinating paintings and carving displays from the 15th and 16th centuries. Above all, Cremona is famous for its excellence in the making of violins and violas for the last 400 years. Its extraordinary craftsmanship is evident in the magnificent instruments produced by hundreds of workshops and violin makers in the city, who continue to pride themselves as one of the finest in the world.
The beef industry has contributed to more American deaths than all the wars of this century, all natural disasters, and all automobile accidents combined. If beef is your idea of real food for real people, you'd better live real close to a real good hospital. Dr. Neil Barnard, MD, Vegan.
Creative viewers, we'll now pause for a moment to hear a brief message. We'll return shortly. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television. Welcome back to our show on violin making in the city of Cremona, Italy. There are several prominent violin making families in Cremona. Born in 1505, Andrea Amati, often called the father of the modern violin, belonged to the first generation of violin making families. In 1539, Andrea rented a house to start his career as a violin maker. Later, he was able to purchase the property and pass it down in the Amati family for over 2 centuries. His first and early instruments were so successful that they were ordered by many distinguished and noble families. The French court ordered 24 instruments in 1565 for His Majesty King Charles IX. Andrea also crafted violins, violas, and cellos for the Spanish court of His Majesty Philip II. His skills were passed on to his 2 sons, Antonio and Gerolamo, who inherited a fully flourishing workshop after he passed away in 1577. The second generation added their expertise to create violins with more sophisticated sound and construction. The third Amati generation began with Gerolamo's son, Nicola Amati, who took the craft to a new level by creating slightly longer and wider bodies that became known as the Grand Amati pattern, which inspired other makers in the city to follow. To meet the demand of the growing business, Nicola recruited young talented apprentices outside of his family, including Andrea Guarnieri and Antonio Stradivari, who later founded their own family business. Today, the Amati instruments are deemed as rare treasures and are mostly displayed in museums around the world, except for a few musicians who are privileged to play them, including the English violinist and orchestra leader Thomas Bose, and the founder and artistic director of the Cinecche Orchestra Cicci Nuagnoco. One of Andrea Guarnieri's grandchildren, Giuseppe Guarnieri, incorporated unique Christian symbols to his violin labels, and his instruments became known as del Gesù, or of Jesus. Antonio Stradivari also developed his own style by opting for new materials, designs and finishes to create a more powerful sound and perfected instrument. The orange-brown varnish became the trademark of his work, and the louder sound produced by the instrument allowed the possibility for solo violin performances in a large concert hall. In 1666, Antonio Stradivari created his own violin model while still an apprentice in Nicola Amati's workshop. Initially, Stradivari imitated his teacher in making violins, but later he developed a larger body shape and used darker varnish. Antonio Stradivari's violin masterpieces that are most admired today include the Sunrise, made in 1677, and the Hellier in 1679. Besides violins, he also developed other string instruments such as violas, cellos, guitars, mandolins, and harps. With his design improvements, he was able to create better sound by overcoming the limitations inherent in many Baroque guitars and other existing traditional string instruments. Setting up his own workshop in early 1700s, Stradivari crafted more than 1,100 string instruments, mostly violins. About 650 pieces are still in existence today, thanks to loyal collectors. He spent his whole life making musical instruments until his passing in 1737. Antonio Stradivari diligently and attentively made notes for each of his creations. Many of these precious documents and tools he used were acquired by violin maker Giuseppe Fiorini in 1920, who donated most of them to the town hall of Cremona a decade later. Stradivari's instruments are still highly appreciated and sought after today by many collectors, fetching vast sums of money. In 1990, a Stradivarius violin, the 1720 Red Mendelssohn, was sold for $1.7 million. In 1998, the Kreutzer, auctioned by Christie's in London, was sold for $1.58 million. In 2011, Nippon Music Foundation sold a 1721 Stradivari violin named the Lady Blunt for an eye-watering price of $15.9 million, with the proceeds being dedicated to the victims of the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami earlier that year. The brilliance of a Stradivarius violin is evident in the beautiful sound rendered by the violinists who are fortunate to play them. With more than 500 years of history, the Cremona violin-making craft has been a great asset to the development of stringed instrument manufacturing globally, steeped in musical tradition, as well as in the art of carving and painting. Cremona's master instrument makers established the basic standards and techniques in the making of violins and other string instruments that have been emulated by craftsmen throughout the world. Each handmade Cremonese instrument is unique, as they combine different kinds of wood-using techniques particular to each instrument, thus making it impossible to produce two identical violins. Maple is considered the most ideal wood for the violin body by the old masters like Stradivari and Guarnieri, as it has the best combination of weight, resonance, and density to create a beautiful sound. The wood is usually harvested during the cold winter months, when the trees are dormant and aged in storage for many decades before being chosen to produce an instrument.
Vegan, 'cause true humans don't live off others' flesh and blood.
Cheerful viewers, thank you for your company today during Cremona, the City of Violin Making, Part 1 of 2. Please return next Thursday, March 10th for Part 2. May the world continue making the ever-quickening shifts to the noble and compassionate vegan diet, thus ushering in the golden age of peace on earth for all beings in God's infinite blessings.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule and suprememastertv.com/AJAR.
Nos programmes offrent plusieurs langues. Veuillez visiter suprememastertv.com/schedule et suprememastertv.com/AJAR.
Nuestros programas ofrecen varios idiomas. Visiten suprememastertv.com/schedule y suprememastertv.com/AJAR.
Rancangan kami menawarkan banyak bahasa. Sila kunjungi suprememastertv.com/kehadapan, schedule dan suprememastertv.com/kehadapan AJAR.